So welcome back. Let's take a look at our first example, which reads, "The rat tail is coming back in style. That sweet haircut was the hallmark of the 1980s heavy metal movement." Well, if you don't know what it looks like this, where kids would grow out the back of their hair and then make it look like a little tail, mostly boys and kind of creepy. Anyway, what I want to do then is I want to figure out a way of joining these two sentences together by using an appositive. As I said in my previous video, I don't want to change the first sentence, which is "the rat tail is coming back in style." What I want to do is I want to take something from the second sentence and embed it into the first. But an appositive is basically a nominal structure. It's a noun, typically, that's renaming another noun, but I don't want to bring up any verbs. So I don't want to bring up this word "was" at all. So "was," you're off the table here. I don't want to use you at all. What I want to focus on is like, what nouns do I have to bring up to the previous sentence? Well, here's rat tail in the original sentence, and I could rename rat tail as a sweet haircut, or I could rename rat tail with the idea of hallmark, meaning it's the symbol of the 1980s heavy metal movement. That sounds a little bit more interesting to me. So I could say the rat tail, that sweet haircut, is coming back in style. Or I could say, ooh, what if I got rid of this thing which says that sweet haircut was, and took this part and brought it up into the sentence? So if I did that, it's like saying the rat tail, the hallmark of the 1980s heavy metal movement, is coming back in style. And that's the sentence I want to create. I got rid of "that sweet haircut was." I didn't want to bring the verb up, and I just want to bring up the most important part. And so I brought up hallmark to rename rat tail. Let me show you what this looks like on a diagram. So what I want to do today is I want to write the sentence, and now I want to diagram it. So make sure you capture the sentence first on your white paper, and then I want to take a look at how we actually diagram it. So let me change screens for you. No, I don't feel like keeping that annotation, but let's go over here. There it is. All right, so let's do this one. So if I take the sentence, I'm going to diagram it. Somewhere in this white space here, I'm going to make my baseline. And I want you to remember that my main sentence is here. The rat tail is coming back in style. Nothing's really changed. I'm going to ignore my appositive right now. So I know that I have a subject, and I just am going to anticipate having a really large subject. So just trust me on this. So right now, I'm going to put tail as my subject. I'm going to say it's the tail, and then rat tail. I'm only going to do that because I know there are different types of tails. There are pigtails, there are ponytails, there are side ponytails. It's very complicated, but there you go. So the rat tail. My verb is coming back. I'm going to treat "is coming back" as one. I have "is coming," and I could say "is coming where." It's coming back in style. So it's coming in style, but where? It's back in style. So I like this idea of back coming off of that word "in." Is coming where in style, but it's back in style. Boom. So I kind of like that. This is my main sentence. Nothing overly dramatic going on here. It's a nice pattern 6 where you have a subject and an action verb. But what I have here is also my appositive. So think about, I'm going to change my color here. Think about how the word hallmark is renaming tail. It's also the subject. It's like saying the hallmark of the 1980s heavy metal movement is coming back in style. You're like, what's the hallmark of the 1980s heavy metal movement? The rat tail. So basically, hallmark and rat tail are the same thing. So it's also the subject. So I'm going to put the word hallmark here. It's also the subject. Now, I didn't split it because I don't have two subjects. I'm not saying the rat tail and the hallmark of the 1980s heavy metal movement is coming back in style. No, they're the same thing. So I have both words are basically trying to do the same job. They're both trying to be the subject. This is just simply renaming rat tail. So the way I show something as a positive is I'm going to put parentheses around it. And this is my way of saying, hey, I don't like that. This is like saying, hey, that's better. You are in a positive. You're renaming that subject. And then all the words describing a hallmark are going to go underneath it if I can. I'm going to try my best to fit them here. So here's the hallmark. It's hallmark of movement. I don't know. I might run out of room, everybody. And then I'd say it's the movement. It's a 1980s movement. It's a heavy metal movement. I might do metal and then heavy metal. I'm not a real expert on different types of metal, but I know there's different. I know people are like, oh my gosh, there's heavy metal, there's death metal, there's So I don't know what else you have, but whatever. So there you go. So heavy metal, 1980s, the movement. There you go. And this is our positive. I like these two different colors because you can see, hey, this is the appositive of the word tail. So the appositive is always going to share the same position. It won't always be the subject, as we're going to find in our worksheet today, but this time it is the subject. You can have an appositive of a direct object. You can have an appositive of the object preposition. Anywhere a noun wants to be, you potentially could have an appositive. It just happens to be the subject this time. It's the appositive of tail. It's really bad handwriting, but you get the point. Okay, let's pause our video. Let's try another example.